Far beneath the restless surface of the ocean, where sunlight softened into blue shadows and coral palaces shimmered like living jewels, lay the kingdom of the Sea King. Its towers were built of pearl and shell, its gates carved from ivory coral, and its halls echoed with the slow, eternal music of the deep. The currents there moved like breathing lungs, carrying whispers from distant trenches and songs from passing whales. Gardens of glowing anemones lit the palace paths at night, and schools of silver fish formed living constellations above the spires. It was a kingdom untouched by time, where days were measured not by sunrise or sunset, but by the rhythm of tides. Here lived the Sea King's 6 daughters, mermaid princesses, each more beautiful than the last. They were raised by their grandmother, the Sea Queen Dowager, a wise and ancient mermaid whose crown was woven from sea lilies and whose eyes held centuries of ocean secrets. The Sea Queen often told stories of the world above, of birds that sang without water, of fire that burned without smoke, and of humans who lived short lives yet filled them with meaning. The elder sisters listened with curiosity, but soon lost interest. Only the youngest leaned closer, hanging on every word as though those stories were meant only for her. The youngest princess was the quietest of them all. She was called Ariel, and from the moment she could swim, she was different. While her sisters laughed and raced dolphins through the currents, Ariel lingered among shipwrecks and sunken relics. She collected human objects, forks bent by time, broken compasses, mirrors clouded with salt, and stored them in a hidden grotto. To her, these items were treasures from another world, whispering stories of land, fire, and sky. Often she would sit alone in the grotto, running her fingers over rusted metal and cracked porcelain, imagining the hands that once held them. She wondered what it felt like to walk on solid ground, to feel warmth that did not come from currents, to look up and see a sky without water pressing down. In those quiet moments, her longing grew deeper, like a tide that never receded. Above all else, Ariel longed to see the human world. Her grandmother often warned her, "Humans are fragile and fleeting. They walk on legs that break, breathe air that fades, and live only a short while. But they have something we do not." Ariel would reply softly, "A soul."
Sea Queen Dowager, a wise and ancient mermaid, looked at her, Ariel, with both sadness and understanding. She explained that mermaids lived for 300 years, glowing with youth until their final day, but when death came, they dissolved into sea foam, leaving nothing behind. Humans, though brief as candle flames, were said to possess immortal souls, something eternal that drifted beyond the world. From that day on, Ariel dreamed not only of land, but of forever. On a storm-brushed evening, the Sea King finally allowed Ariel to rise to the surface for the first time. Her heart raced as she swam upward, the water growing lighter and warmer with every stroke. When she broke through the surface, the air startled her, cool, sharp, and filled with unfamiliar scents. Above her stretched the sky, endless and alive, painted in purples and grays as clouds gathered. Lightning split the heavens. Waves crashed like mountains, and in the distance, a great ship struggled against the storm. Music drifted across the water, laughter, celebration, life. Ariel watched in wonder as humans danced upon the deck, illuminated by lantern light. And then she saw him. A young prince stood near the mast, his dark hair whipped by wind, his face bright with joy. He laughed as thunder rolled, fearless and alive. In that instant, Ariel felt her heart ache in a way she had never known. She studied his movements, the way he spoke to others, the warmth in his smile. This was no creature of legend, he was real, living, breathing, and standing beneath the open sky she had dreamed of all her life. But joy turned to terror when the storm grew violent.
The ship shattered against the rocks. Men were thrown into the sea. Flames vanished beneath waves. Ariel searched desperately until she found the prince sinking, unconscious, pulled down by the weight of water. Without hesitation, she swam to him. Cradling his head above the waves, she fought the current, her strength pushed by fear and devotion. Salt burned her eyes and thunder roared overhead, but she did not stop until she reached the shore. There, as dawn painted the sky in gold, she laid him gently on the sand and sang. Her voice, pure, aching, filled with longing, rose like a prayer. The song carried hope, love, and the quiet wish that he might live. The prince stirred, breathing once more. Hearing footsteps, Ariel vanished into the sea, watching from behind a rock as the prince awakened, never knowing who had saved him. But Ariel knew, and her heart would never be the same again. Back in the ocean, Ariel could no longer hide her sadness. She drifted through palace halls like a shadow, her eyes distant, her smile gone. Her sisters noticed her silence. Her father noticed her absence. When the Sea King discovered her secret grotto, he was furious. "Humans are not for us," he thundered, striking the seafloor with his trident, shattering Ariel's treasures. Each broken object felt like a wound. Ariel gathered the fragments in her arms, but her father's anger had already flooded the room. Unable to explain the depth of her longing, she fled into the dark waters where few dared to swim. There, in a twisted trench, surrounded by writhing seaweed and glowing with eerie light, lived Ursula, the sea witch. Ursula listened with a smile as Ariel confessed her love, her desire for a soul, her willingness to suffer. "I can help you," the witch purred. "I can give you legs, but every step will feel like walking on sharp knives. And in exchange, I will take your voice." Ariel touched her throat, fear tightening her chest. Her voice was her greatest gift, her truest self. "And if the prince loves another," she asked, "then you will belong to the sea forever," Ursula replied. "At dawn you will turn to foam, for love, for a soul, for a chance," Ariel agreed. With a cry torn from her throat, her voice was stolen. The sea spun into darkness, and silence wrapped around her like a curse.
Ariel awoke on the shore at sunrise, her tail replaced by legs. Pain shot through her with every movement, sharp and relentless, yet she forced herself to stand. Each step was agony, but the light, the breeze, and the sound of waves kept her moving. The prince found her soon after. He recognized her eyes, though not her voice. Believing she was the girl who had saved him, he welcomed her into his palace. Ariel lived among humans, learning their customs, their laughter, their fragile joys. She learned how they danced, how they celebrated, how they cried without shame. Though she could not speak, her kindness and grace charmed everyone. The prince grew fond of her, trusting her with his thoughts, unaware of the love burning silently within her. But his heart belonged to a mystery, the voice he had heard on the shore. When he became engaged to another princess, Ariel's world shattered. That night, her sisters rose from the sea, their hair cut short, their faces pale. "We traded our hair for a knife," they said. "If you kill the prince before dawn, you can return to the sea." Ariel held the blade as moonlight kissed the waves. She looked at the sleeping prince, at the life she loved but could not claim, and she chose love over herself. She threw the knife into the ocean and leapt into the waves, ready to vanish forever.
As dawn broke, Ariel felt no pain. Instead, she rose light as mist, gentle as wind. The daughters of the air surrounded her, their forms glowing like morning clouds. "Because you chose mercy," they said. "You have earned a soul." Ariel smiled as she drifted toward the horizon, no longer bound by sea or land, but by kindness, patience, and hope. And far below, the waves whispered her